Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Panzerfaust entitled The Sons of Perdition, Chapter 4 to Shadow Zion. This is the 6th full-length studio album and the 4th and final entry in this Sons of Perdition concept album series from this Canadian black metal crew hailing from my hometown of Mississauga, Ontario, to be exact. Now, these guys were making some pretty stark, oppressive, and misanthropic and miserable music long before they went down the Sons of Perdition road, long before they dropped the first part of this concept album series way back in 2019, in June of 2019, well over 5 years ago. But they've definitely been at their most stark, their most oppressive, their most misanthropic, and their most miserable with this album series. They've continued to get more brutal. They've continued to expand their sonic horizons, bringing in different melodies, different dynamics, using more dissonant sounds here and there, using more bludgeoning kind of elements, mixing in like other kind of extreme metal spices and ideas. All while talking in fairly graphic detail about the horrors of war, violence, the inhumanity of humanity itself. With this particular album marking the cataclysmic conclusion to this intense black metal series, plunging listeners into a dark exploration of humanity's collapse. This final chapter delves deep into themes of existential despair, war, spiritual desolation, and the inevitable cycles of death and rebirth. Each track paints a bleak picture of a world unraveling, with humanity losing its innocence and hope as it spirals toward destruction. And how fitting, really, that an album so bleak and so dark, so apocalyptic in tone from an album concept series that itself has also been so bleak, so dark, so apocalyptic in tone would arrive in such dystopian and terrifying times. I love that. I love where the world is headed right now. This is awesome. What a great pairing, really. I mean, you got chicken and waffles, peanut butter and jelly, wine and cheese, and Panzerfaust singing about war and how much they hate humanity, and humanity itself just totally unraveling and descending into chaos and war. Love it, love it, love it. Everything is awesome. And I get it. It's okay. I think even Panzerfaust will get it. It's fine. Move on to something else. No one's gonna get mad at you. But if you're in your doomer phase, or if you're just feeling like a sad little shit, if you want to revel in brutality and darkness and pain and misery, this is for you. And in fact, it wouldn't shock me if a lot of like die-hard black metal listeners and such were placing this in their top 10 at the end of the year. The way that this thing expresses just total mental, physical, spiritual agony and destruction is ruinously effective. This is an incredibly powerful record, maybe the most powerful in this concept album series, I would say. I mean, right away you've got the Hesychasm Unchained, which just towers over you and unleashes bludgeoning riffs and blackened grooves and a variety of multi-layered vocal dynamics like howling vocals, squealing vocals, screeching vocals, barking vocals, all kind of sometimes working in unison to create an almost choral effect. Really great use of bleak, subtle, and bitter guitar-driven melodicism all throughout, plus also dissonance and some other atmospheric elements and textures to just kind of make this thing sound massive and dark, like I'm being consumed by an ancient, shadowy creature, some kind of hellish nightmare fog. Where it really shines, though, is in the last 2 minutes, where we have this cold, classic crescendo of like 90s atmospheric black metal with darker tones and vibes, transitioning into some more crazed and confused kind of pummelings and barrages. And of course, the addition of what sounds like a swarm of locusts in the very beginning and very end. Mwah, nice touch. The cherry on top of a disgusting yet delicious sundae. Then there's the following cut, When Even the Ground is Hostile, which isn't as dynamic, but it does still succeed by being a lot more blunt and a lot more ferocious. This thing, to me, just straight up sounds like war, like active duty combat in sonic form. It is brutal, unrelenting, uncompromising, incredibly violent. It has some crazed, out-of-nowhere, left-field moments here and there that kind of throw you into disarray. I love the use of this really loud, thunderous, repetitive percussion all throughout as well. Like, it literally just sounds like cannons and artillery machine guns and shit constantly going off. Now, beyond this point, there are only 3 songs left on the album, with each one getting progressively longer and longer. And I'm not gonna lie to you, in all 3 of these songs, there was at least one moment, and in some cases multiple, where I kinda looked at my watch and went, alright, let's speed things up a little bit. Let's get to the point, okay? But, that said, I concede that any patience I was forced to exercise was ultimately worth it. The Damascene Conversions, for instance, is a very interesting track. I like how it uses droning, swelling guitars at first to create this very ominous kind of sound and feel, almost meant to emulate horns or like the cries of damned souls. I don't know, it sure as hell sounds like it at a certain point. And I also like how it introduces some more slow, mid-pace kind of drums. I like how it introduces the baglama, typically used in like Turkish folk music. And it does all of this to create a more meditative, hypnotic kind of sound and feel, while still having this really dark and sinister kind of underbelly to it. And I like how it builds on this and becomes, I would argue, intentionally more monotonous. Like to create this repetitive, numbing kind of feel to lull you into this false sense of security. That way, when it does launch into flurries of more typical Panzerfaustian black and extreme metal, it kind of catches you off guard. Some of the most gnarly and venomous screams and guttural vocals can be heard on this one song too. Goddamn, get that man a glass of water. Occam's Razor is really cool too, throwing in some more classic black metal kind of beats and sprawls, kind of tapping into that like proto-black metal underground black metal vibe and rage from like the late 1980s, and it also throws in some more technical, complex, nuanced riffs and melodies here and there. And though the closing number and title track to Shadow Zion is the most fatty and bloated of the bunch, clocking in at 11 minutes when it could probably make do with 7, in my opinion, I concede it nonetheless brings this album to a pretty satisfying and cathartic finish. And to be fair, even if there are things that I would trim or edit down, ultimately the album still wraps up in a pretty good amount of time, clocking in at 45 minutes. And also, a lot of it is really fucking great. That's why I'm giving it a 4 to 5. It's a great record. This is very clearly a concept in an album series that means a lot to Panzerfaust. They've very clearly put a lot into it. They've clearly thought a lot about how they've wanted this to play out, and I think that they have succeeded. There is no doubt in my mind that if you've been following Panzerfaust, and especially if you've been following this Sons of Perdition album series, that you will love this album. No doubt in my mind that if you're looking for some really dark, brutal, misanthropic, black metal shit, you will love this album. This definitely won't be for everyone, and I can totally understand why somebody would be turned off by this. I mean, this is objectively very harsh, brutal, bleak, misanthropic, miserable music, and also this is like part 4 in a massive album series that's been going on for 5 years, and also it talks a lot about war and violence and things that make people uncomfortable. It talks about just the unraveling, spiraling, decaying state of humanity in the world, and it is very reflective, I would say, of modern times. Maybe not intentionally so, but irregardless, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world, and maybe you don't want music that is reflective of that in your life. I get it, I understand that. But, simultaneous to that, maybe you're done doom scrolling, maybe you need some kind of outlet, and boom, maybe this is it. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to see that this album series was actually completed. I'm happy to report that it is consistently great all the way through, and I'm genuinely pretty excited to see how Panzerfaust continue to evolve their sound, to see how they continue to mature as artists in the future. The Sons of Perdition, Chapter 4 to Shadow Zion, 4 to 5, a very enthusiastic one at that. It's a great fucking record. Definitely check it out if you've got the stomach for it. And that is it for the Metal and that is it for the Metal Meltdown. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown immediately. Join us on Discord. Follow us on the social medias and all that crap. Wow, more videos. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.